Hi, my name's Dave and I'm from MarketBuy, and what I intend to do today is just run through a quick demonstration of what our software does. So what you'll see on the screen in front of you is just a representation of different participants in a demonstration sale that we've set up. So what you see is an agent and a buyer at this stage. Now I'm going to run through a whole heap of things that the software is capable of doing. Clearly, in most cases, not all of these features will be used in every single sale, but it's important that you see what the software is capable of. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I have set up our reserve at 500,000. So let's suggest in this instance for this buyer that they decide to submit an offer of 440,000. So they simply put their price in, put their password in, hit place offer. It is a two-stage process, and that's just to ensure that they're aware of the price that they've put in. And what happens is that price is then updated across both screens. Now this is a very traditional one-on-one negotiation. So we have a single buyer at this stage and the agent. So what the agent is able to do, they've got a number of options. They can either accept that offer, or, as would happen in most cases, as we all know, agents will very rarely accept the first offer that comes in. They have the opportunity to place a counter offer. Now, this is not to be confused with a vendor bid in the sense of an auction. Once again, thinking back very much along the lines that you would with a normal one-on-one negotiation, you have the opportunity to say, you know what, $440,000 is not enough. We'll be placing a counter offer or a comeback price, if you like. So given that we've set the reserve at 500, it would be reasonable to assume that the agent may come back and say $520,000 is the price that the owner would accept. They once again place their password, they would confirm the price, and you'll see that it updates across both screens. So what we have now is a buyer that can see that their offer was 440,000. It clearly states that the owner will accept 520,000, and it starts to build an offer history. So on both screens there is now an offer where it clearly, or an offer history where it clearly shows the offer and the counter offer made by the agent. Now the seller does get their own screen, and the seller has a screen that gets to see everything that's going on. Now they don't have any controls on their screen, so the agent has the ability to accept the offer. They have the ability to change timers, change reserves, pause or resume sales, but the owner has a very passive screen. Now while they feel connected to the sale and feel involved in the sale, they don't have the opportunity themselves to directly influence the sale in any way. They have to go through the agent. You know, we've done that for a number of reasons, but we also understand after 20 years in real estate sales that it's extremely important that the owner does have that agent that acts as their conduit to the sale, because, you know, at the end of the day, the agent's the one that's providing the advice, the agent's the one that's dealing with the buyers, and you know the owner should be going through them to make any changes to the sale. So we'll take the seller out for a second. Now if we do have a second buyer that does register for the sale, this is the registration process they'd go through. So they need to select a password for themselves. We do have the ability to add conditions in the sale, so you can add a subject to finance and subject to building and pest inspection clause, but that is at the choosing of the agent. When you're creating a sale, when you first list it, it's up to you to decide whether any of those conditions will be applicable, and it's up to you to decide whether one or both or more are available for a buyer to choose. You can obviously have an unconditional sale, or just a finance clause, or just a building and pest inspection, or all of them. The buyer has the opportunity to choose what their email alerts are, so they can choose at what point they're being notified. Now this is an option that we provide to our agents, so you can choose to verify your purchaser's identity through a credit card verification system. And what that means is we will ask the buyers to register for the sale using their credit card. We don't take any money from their account, but what we do is take a pre-authorization. It's generally $50 or $100. And what that means is it will take a pre-authorization against their card. Once again, it's just a hold. We don't take any money from their card. And then once their registration has been confirmed and been completed, an automatic void will go through which will release that hold. But what it does do is it does trigger the merchant facilities and allows us to collect cardholder information such as the name and the cardholder number, and it just means that we can cross-reference that with the name and the email address that they've registered with, and give some credibility back to both buyers and owners that the people who are participating in the sale and making offers are in fact legitimate buyers. It also ensures that owners can't register their family and friends as buyers and artificially push up the price. And once, as mentioned before, it provides that credibility back to the buyers that they are competing, but they are competing against other legitimate buyers. And if there was any question as to the validity or the credence of the buyers, that can all be proven through the digital ledger that is provided with each sale. Now, that credit card facility is an option. You don't have to use it. We allow agents on an agency by agency basis or property by property basis to choose that. You can, if you choose to, just verify based purely on an email address and a phone number. But clearly you do have to be a lot more careful to ensure that the people who are participating are legitimate buyers that have either been through the property or have your confidence that they are there in good faith with every intention to purchase the property. Once they fill out their credit card details, they do need to tick that they agree to the terms and conditions and they register. So in this case, we now have two buyers. You'll notice that the screens between both buyers are different. We're unique in the sense that each of our participants are recognized by our server, and depending on what stage they're at in the sales transaction and what stage they're at as far as making offers or not making offers, that the server recognizes them and pushes out the information that is relevant to that participant. So you can see here that this buyer who has not yet made an offer, they can see that there's been an offer made of $440,000, but what they can't see is the counter offer. And what we've tried to do is really replicate a traditional one-on-one negotiation. So to use a real life example, if you were negotiating with a single buyer and you had provided a price that the owner would accept, that's not information that you would generally make available to the wider general public. It's not information that you would talk to other buyers about. That information is generally for that one buyer. So we've tried to replicate that with the software. Because these people have not yet participated, they have not yet placed an offer, they don't get the benefit of seeing the counter. This buyer here has that opportunity to either accept that offer or continue the negotiations. And that's one of the ways that we can start to ramp up a little bit of pressure on buyers. So we can say to the Jones family, which is the buyer that is yet to make an offer, that they need to participate in the sale quickly. They need to jump in and declare their intentions quickly, because the other buyers at any point in time can accept the offer which will close the sale out. If they want to stop that from happening, what they need to do is make an offer. So let's say that we've been successful in that line of discussions with them and they decide to place an offer of $450,000, given that the last offer they can see is the offer of $440,000. So it would be reasonable to assume that they would place a further $10,000 offer. Once again, all the screens change. So it depends on what's happening, where the sale's at, what number of buyers are participating as to what information is displayed. So we can see now that there's a $450,000 offer on both buyer screens. You'll also see that that counter offer has now disappeared from both buyer screens because it's no longer relevant. Once we've moved into a multiple offer situation, that counter offer no longer should play a part in this particular sale process, because we want these buyers to now fight it out amongst themselves to hopefully get to a point where the vendors are happy to accept. There is now a red light. So there's been a red light that's been generated in a multiple buyer sale, and that just simply says that the price is not yet at the minimum. So it's not yet at the reserve, if you like, or at a price that the owner is willing to sell the property for. The agent has a number of choices. Once again, they can change that reserve if they choose to. They can change the increments in the bid. So as it currently stands in this sale, each buyer below reserve has to go up by a minimum of $1,000. And once reserve's met, they have to go up by a minimum of $250. If they need to seek further instructions from their owner at any point, they can pause the sale, and they can pause it for either for a specific date and time. So for example, they could pause it until 7 o'clock tonight or 7 o'clock tomorrow night, or they can set a timer and pause it for 2 hours or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever's going to be most appropriate to that sale. Also, they have the option of sending the property on the market. So what that means is if we get to a point where the buyers have fought it out and they've got very, very close to what the owner's willing to accept, and the owner decides that they've reached a point at which he's willing or she's willing to sell, you can send the property on the market, which will send the light green for the buyers and will also generate an email to all buyers and participants that says the property is now on the market and will be sold to the highest buyer. So in this particular instance, and we see this a lot, once again, I'll just remind you that not all of these things happen in every sale. We are showing you a whole range of different features and functions on the site so that you can see what's possible, but it is important to remember that only about anywhere between 20 and 50% of these features are used at any one sale at any one time. But let's say we've had two buyers and the Jones family of holding the highest offer at $450,000, and Edna from Moonee Ponds has decided that $440,000 was her highest price. She's decided that she's not going to participate anymore. She's made a single offer and that's as far as she's prepared to go. Now, under normal auction circumstances, or indeed even in the circumstances of auction style software that is currently available in the marketplace, you're kind of stuck. There's not a lot you can do. But we needed to be able to provide a way for agents to continue to transition this sale, to continue to advance this sale. So there's a couple of options there. The buyer, and this is one of the unique features of our site, the buyer does have the ability to make further offers even against themselves. So during the course of a phone call or a message, you might say to those buyers, the owner is chasing somewhere north of $500,000. $450,000 is a lot lower than what we would have expected for the property, and we have every confidence that we're going to see a higher price. If you want this property, I suggest you get a little bit more reasonable. They may take your advice on that and decide to submit an offer of $480,000 based on their knowledge that the owner is chasing over $5,000, and they place their counter offer, or they place their further offer. Again, this updates across all screens. These people are still there. They still have the ability to make the offer. They haven't cancelled their registration, which they can do, but at this stage they haven't cancelled their registration. So they're still watching the sale as it goes ahead. And we find that in practical live situations, buyers very, very rarely cancel their registration for the most part, even if they've decided they're no longer willing to participate or compete. They tend to keep their accounts open because they're interested to see what happens. They're interested to see what the property sells for, and for a lot of people it just gives them an indication of how far off the mark they were. Again, even though the buyer has advanced their offer to $480,000, the agent holds the right to say, you know what, that's still not enough. We did say $520,000. We are willing to negotiate. We're going to place a counter offer again at $510,000. So again, all three screens change depending on where they're at in the sales transaction. Because both of these buyers have both made previous offers, that counter offer is now visible across both buyer screens. The agent screen is a little bit different. Once again, we have that original counter offer, so we keep that original counter offer there for record purposes, so the agent has a clear record of the actions they've taken during the course of the sale. But it also now shows that we have an existing counter offer at $510,000. What happens if one of the buyers decides to accept that offer? So if they decide to accept that offer and they put their password in, hit OK, updates across all screens, it doesn't automatically close out the sale. The light goes green and the other buyer is given an opportunity to meet or to beat that offer. And what often happens is that timer is often set at 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So they have that period of time to decide whether or not they're prepared to compete. If that buyer then comes back and says to you, no, I'm out, I'm done, and you are assured that they're no longer prepared to compete, as an agent you have a couple of choices. You can just let that timer tick down and the sale will close to the highest buyer at the expiration of the timer. Or if you've got a longer timer, and sometimes we've seen them up to 2 or 3 hours, you may decide that you don't want that buyer to have to wait the full 2 or 3 hours or 2 hours, and you want to close the sale out straight away. And once again, as far as providing a maximum amount of flexibility for our agents to ensure that they can do what they need to do, we've provided that option. So the agent can say, okay, well, the Jones family have told me they're definitely out. They've confirmed that they're no longer willing to negotiate. I'm not going to make you wait for the entire length of the sale. They accept the offer, put their password in, and the sale closes out. Everyone's notified via email. The Jones family are told that unfortunately they don't have the highest offer for the property. Edna is told, congratulations, you do have the highest offer. And it's also important here. So what we've also done is made sure that we're not saying that you've bought the property. We clearly say in our communication to them, you're holding the highest offer, and the agent will be in contact with you to discuss the next steps going forward. We've been very, very clear on this all the way through, that at the end of the day, this software is not a legally binding process. It's a really efficient communication-based process that allows you to handle your offer or your buyers in a very open, very transparent and efficient way. But at the end of the day, until the contracts are signed, the sale is not done. So we don't make any statements that would lead a buyer to believe that they have a legal entitlement to the property. We do simply say that they're holding the highest offer, and the agent will be in touch to advise of the next steps. Now, we've found over the course of the time that we've run this, and we've now been actively running this in marketplaces for the last 2 years, so 12 months just within my office, and we've also been running it for the last 8 or 9 months through a variety of different markets, from Queensland to Western Australia to the ACT and obviously New South Wales and New Zealand. And we've found that we have an in excess of a 98% completion rate, and what that means is well in excess of 98% of people who complete this transaction online come in to fill in the paperwork and the relevant sales documentation for your area. So while some agents have some concern that people have no legal obligation to come in and complete the paperwork, the reality is that once people have been through this process, they have a sense of ownership, they have a sense of entitlement to the property, they feel like they've competed for it fairly and openly, and they for the most part will come in and complete those contracts, whether you do that via email or get them into the office. Obviously that's an agency by agency choice, but the rate or the percentage of completions is very, very high. You'll also notice on these pages that these pages are branded up as Market Share Property. Now, Market Share Property is the residential real estate office that I run in Croydon North in Victoria, but we do provide a white label solution for all of our agents. So if you were a Ray White or a Harcourts or a Remax or any of those brands, or even obviously an independent brand, you would have your own branding on that page. And the reason that we do that is very, very simple. People get very conscious of being dragged away to third-party sites. They feel a lot more comfortable, particularly when they're making decisions to the value of hundreds of thousands of dollars and sometimes millions of dollars, that the page they're interacting on is a page that you've authorized. It's a page that almost looks like it's something that is just an add-on tool of your home website. So our branding is very specifically agent branding and your branding. And I think that's a really important part. Online sales are becoming more and more popular in the marketplace across a wide variety of industries. Real estate has really been the last to take up the baton of introducing a way for people to purchase property online safely and securely. But there is that still sense of newness about it, of not being too sure. So what we really wanted to do is to make sure that we provided as much credibility around that, and ensured that the people who were using the software knew and felt comfortable using it. You can see by the way that we've just run through that demonstration that it's very straightforward. Like the interface itself is fairly basic, and it doesn't take a great deal of instruction to use it, you know, provided you can remember to punch in your price and you can remember a simple password that you put in, and you have access to a mobile internet capable device, then you can do it. Now, clearly this is being done on a desktop. You know, you can certainly buy property or use a desktop for it. We do find that over 80% of our users are on a mobile device of one type or another, whether it be a phone or whether it be an iPad, and a small minority of them are using a you know, a desktop style PC or Mac, but you know, the majority are on mobile devices. Having said that, this website, and it is a website, it's not an app, and there's a number of reasons for that. You know, the main reasons we use a website over and above an app is speed, security, ability for us to control the interface, delivery of information in a reasonable period of time, and ensuring that it's not prone to any sort of crash. You know, apps have their own unique issues in that they have to be updated periodically between an iOS system and an Android system. If those updates aren't handled efficiently and expertly, sometimes you can have a crash between or you can have a information that is not consistent between the two different platforms. So, you know, that's a danger. The other thing with apps is they tend to be long-term uses. So people will download an app for games, they'll download an app for public transport or services they use all the time. Property purchases aren't something that people do on a day-to-day basis, so it made sense to us, and it made it just easier for a wide variety of reasons, as I said, security but also usability, that people were able to just tap into a website. Now that website had to be very, very responsive, and it had to render across a wide variety of devices, and that's what you can see here. You know, these websites work perfectly well on a phone. All the information is there and available. You can see that we have the contracts there, so the contracts are just there in a downloadable PDF, so you can upload any sales relevant documentation that you need, and you know, it is a very, very simple way for people to be able to purchase property, and they can do it from home. They can do it while they're out to dinner. They can interact on a property late at night. They can do it at 1 o'clock in the morning if they want. And once again, that's what it looks like on a desktop, laptop, and a phone. So that in the essence is a really basic rundown of what the software does. Now, we've been working with this, as stated, for the last couple of years, so we have a lot of strategies, a lot of tools that we use in relation to how we present this to buyers, what we say to vendors. But at its heart, it's a very simple communication tool. It's a tool that allows us to give the opportunity to buyers to interact on a property anywhere at any time. It allows us to provide the chance for our owners to be far more fully immersed in the sales program, to feel like they're part of what's going on, to have that information delivered to them when it happens, and it allows an agent to manage the offer process from anywhere. You know, and it also provides a great deal more credibility. I think we've all been in situations where we've had to tell a buyer that it's now a multiple offer and there's a number of people that want to purchase the same property, and we're met with a great deal of resistance. We're met with a great deal of distrust in a lot of those cases. People look at us and say, well, how do we know that's true? You know, how do we know the agent isn't just saying that? Don't all agents say that? Don't they say that at every sale, whether it's true or not? Well, we can remove all of that negativity, and we can remove those barriers. You know, we can make it very clear to buyers that if they're going to be competing, you know, they can see where the competition is. I think we've also heard, all of us have heard a buyer that comes back and says that they would have paid more if they'd known what the other offers were, or they were unable to make it to an auction on a particular Saturday. Or they were unable to compete in an auction because they needed to have a finance clause. You know, for a variety of reasons, real estate industry hasn't evolved a great deal in the transactional experience for the buyers or the owners. You know, we've been very innovative and we've been very forward thinking in our marketing. You know, we've moved with the times quite quickly as an industry, I think. You know, we've been very, very quick to adopt VR tours, been very quick to adopt video and drones, and 3D floor plans and all of these type of things that have really assisted the consumer from a marketing perspective. But we really haven't done a lot at all to have any significant impact on the transactional experience, and we're still conducting our transactions very much in the same way that we've done for the last 30 or 40 years. And the consumers are demanding more from us now. They're demanding greater access to their sale. They're demanding greater flexibility and adaptability in the ways that they can make offers, that they can interact with us. They don't want to come in and fill out a mountain of paperwork anymore for an offer that may or may not secure the property. They don't want to have to take it on face value when we tell them that there's a multiple offer situation. They don't want to turn up to an auction and stand in front of a hostile crowd of people they don't know, who are trying aggressively to talk them out or intimidate them out of the sale on a Saturday afternoon at a time we've determined they have to be there in a high pressure situation. They don't want to do this stuff. And I think it's transactionally the onus is on us as an industry to get much better at what we do and to provide those levels of options that ensures that if a buyer has the capacity and the willingness to buy the property, that we take that sale and we put it into a format that is going to be, it's going to be easy for them. We don't want to place barriers in the way. We don't want to make people jump through 1,000 hoops in order to purchase a property. What we want to do is give them the tools and the availability to act on their buying urges when they have them. And it doesn't matter whether it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night. We want them to have that opportunity to submit that offer, have that offer instantly communicated to both the agent and the owner, have the owner and the agent have the opportunity to have that discussions and provide reasonable responses within a reasonable period of time. So that's in a nutshell. In all honesty, I could talk for hours about the options and the flexibility and the different ways you can set these sales up. I will say this very clearly: this is not an auction website. We have evolved way beyond a standard auction site. We now have the capacity and the ability to handle any type of sale, whether you've got one buyer or 50 buyers, whether you've been on the market for 2 weeks or 6 months. We can provide a platform that allows you to handle that offer process and to handle it with a lot more certainty for everyone that's involved. People have their face buried in their device. All we've done is take that sale process and put it into a format that they're already intimately comfortable with. We've put it onto a device they're already interacting with near on 24 hours a day these days. If you want to know more and you'd like to have a further discussion about what our software could do for you and for your business, feel free to contact me. I can be contacted on david@msprop, that's M for Mary, S for Sam, prop.com.au, or you can contact our office on 8727 0333. Thanks for that.